Narcissists are psychotic, and you might ask yourself, what do you mean by that? Or what does that mean, narcissists are psychotic? Well, I've got the definition here so we could take a look together. So basically, psychotic means relating to, denoting, or suffering from a psychosis. And then there's a little more. Well, and then you can't see it, but on the other side it says the definition of psychosis here, which is a mental disorder characterized by a disconnection from reality. Okay. Let me bring that back up. So basically, the reason I say they're psychotic is because every single narcissist, and I would also argue every single borderline, is in a full-fledged psychosis because they're not in reality. So therefore, they're psychotic. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what exactly is reality? Because that's kind of subjective. I mean, for example, if you have a 10-year-old, young boy, and he sits around and he plays video games for 10 hours a day, well, that's his reality, correct? So everyone's version of reality is different. If he spends 10 hours in that alternate video game reality where he's like blowing people up and shooting people in the head, and that's a pretty violent reality, even though it's not traditionally what most people would consider reality. That's his reality for 10 hours out of the day. You see what I'm saying? So reality is different depending on who's living it and what they're doing. If you're spending 23 out of 24 hours a day on the internet, that the internet is now your reality, which you're also subject to being mind controlled because the blue light of the computer, and staring at these screens, they actually have technology where they can alter your brain waves with this blue lighting. It's a very specific frequency that can alter your brain waves. So they have the ability to control you with these devices and put you into a hive mind. But anyway, I'm getting off onto a different subject. So basically what I'm trying to say is everyone's version of reality is completely different. Now, in personality disordered individuals, cluster B, personality disordered individuals, which is, narcissist and borderlines, they are not in reality because they have a false self for the most part. So if you have two different versions of yourself, one that's sort of a creation, if you will, or a kind of innovative thing that you created for yourself as a means of dealing with some kind of trauma, whether that was in your adolescence, whether that was later in life. These personality disorders can morph and show themselves later in life as well. So basically what I'm trying to say is narcissists are completely psychotic because they're in a psychosis. They're in a psychosis. It's like a dream-like state. They're not in reality. They're in a fantasy world. I've already done a video on that. It's like a fantasy land. They're not in reality. And again, that's subjective because everyone's version of reality is completely different. Let's say you're a nurse and you do 2 shifts. That's your reality. You work 2-3 shifts at a time. That's your reality. So your reality is sitting in the hospital, tending to sick patients, things like that. That's your reality. Another person, maybe they're a student and they take courses at the university. Okay, maybe it's part-time, maybe they work part-time. That's their reality. Other people, maybe they sit on Instagram and take pictures of their ass all day. Okay, that's their reality. So everyone's reality is totally different. But my point is that narcissists are totally psychotic. They're in a full-fledged psychosis. They're not in reality. They're in some kind of figment of their own imagination, a personality, because they're so they have such a labile sense of self-worth and self-esteem that they have to create some grandiose, alpha male personality to make themselves feel better about their low self-esteem. They've created this kind of monstrosity, whether it be to protect the abused child. I mean, is this fake persona, so to speak? Is this? It's almost like an alter ego. Like you have an alter ego and then they have the real self. So is the alter ego there to protect the wounded child? Is the what created the alter ego in the first place? It tends to be from trauma. All these things stem from trauma. It's like almost like some kind of something split off. Like in Borderline, they have a term called splitting. Like something split off, and something went haywire at some point in time, and some other sort of personality emerged, whether it's a defense mechanism, which I believe it generally is, like a defense mechanism, like I said, to protect either the wounded child or the defenseless child or something like that, where they have all of a sudden, the big bad, wicked witch persona that comes out to defend the more kind of timid child that doesn't feel like it can protect itself. Maybe like when in adolescence they were abused and they didn't feel like they could speak up for themselves. At some point in time, this alter ego, spin-off, somehow happened, and the narcissist morphed into this other kind of fake persona. So why that happened, like I said, I think it's generally from trauma. And I'm just throwing out ideas. I never once claimed to be an expert. I just throw out my ideas, my opinions, and things from my own experiences dealing with narcissists, etc. And I like to get everyone else's feedback because it's really interesting. They're almost like scarily fascinating in a way, in a weird, creepy way. But because they're so foreign to generally what any of us have experienced in our day-to-day lives up to that point, until, we cross paths with some kind of narcissist, etc. So anyway, I'd like to get everyone else's feedback on this. Basically, narcissists are in a psychosis. They're in a dreamlike state. They're not in the traditional reality, let's say, that we used to think of. Because remember, there used to not be an internet at all. I'm old enough to know, and remember, there was no internet. At that point in time, there were video games, but not to the depth of what they are now. They were just like little rinky-dink Atari games. It wasn't lifelike. You know what I'm saying? Like where these new games, the graphics are like real. So if you're killing someone, it's like you're really killing someone. The graphics are so real. So that really could be considered an alternate reality. Whereas like Atari, I don't really think, when I played Atari when I was younger, I didn't feel like I, left. And it didn't have the addictive qualities like these games and the internet does, and how they built everything and turned it into, an addiction. They've turned these platforms into, what's the word? Those drugs. the internet should be classified as a controlled substance at this point because it's literally addictive. Everyone's addicted to it. It's that, instant gratification dopamine hit when someone likes your picture and things like that. Now, I left there years ago. I'm not even on any of those, Instagram, Facebook. I don't use any of that crap. It's all instant gratification, addiction lunacy. So if you're trying to not be an addict of some sort, you better get off of those. It also turns people into narcissists. So if you notice, a lot of these so-called narcissist sites where they're supposed to be helping victims, some of these people are the most toxic people I've ever seen in my life. They sit there, they gossip, they're constantly causing drama, they're talking about other people's channels, they're talking about other people, they're causing argument. I'm like, these people are more toxic than anyone I've ever seen in my life. So I don't know if they can't seem to notice or what. But anyway, that's another topic for another video. But my main point of this video, like the title says, narcissists are psychotic. They're in a full-fledged psychosis. They're not in reality, which means they're psychotic. They're in a dream-like state. They have a fake persona, and they navigate the world through this fake persona. And the other person, let's say they're looking to date or they're looking to have friendships, the other party generally does not know this is a fake persona until the mask drops and there's some kind of, demon underneath, and then they realize what they've just gotten enmeshed with, some kind of, sick, twisted demon. But, it's just something that I believe, for the most part, is spawned in childhood at the time of the trauma. But as I said, these things can happen later in life because you can be traumatized at any point. You might be sexually assaulted. You might be, you could have gotten a horrendous car crash and had a serious trauma in that way. I don't think that would cause narcissism, but there's so many different ways to be traumatized, and they've created a society where, it's like constant trauma at this point because, we're being lied to, we're being gaslit, we're being, it's like we're being punked like 24/7. It's just, we're in a sea of lies. It's very hard to sift through all the lies. So, narcissism is really running rampant at this point. It's the real pandemic, if you ask me. So anyway, give me your thoughts on this. Okay, thank you.